fine. You're gonna be fine.
Okay, I'm going to try and make it fine because I love her dearly and I want her to be proud of what I do.
Okay. Straighten your chair.
Like
There you go. So remember, you're talking to me, the camera's in between. That way your eyes don't have to wander and you don't have to focus.
Right there.
All right, we are recording.
Oh, do we say today is February the 17th,
Yeah.
2023, and Pumpkin, I'm beginning to get the videotape that you wanted done now, so we'll be starting in a few seconds. Sorry, my name is Ponchita Ann Arguyard. I was born in Cleveland, Ohio, and my birth date is 12/15/37. I made 85 last December the 15th. This videotape is for Hadia Green Arguyard. This was what you asked for your birthday gift for January 26, 2023. Now I'm going to reflect a little bit on our past together. I remember when I first met you. You were referred to me, I think you were a sophomore at University City High School, and you were living with your aunt and your uncle. And your aunt was being a little stubborn about giving you money from your death benefits of your mom, and so you were referred to me. And I remember you coming to the office, and we sat down and you explained your situation. After you left, I decided I needed to find out more about you, so I looked up your grades, attendance, and I found out you were a straight A student, you were president of your class, you were had other accomplishments in the high school, and you volunteered in things. So I printed that all out, and I asked you to go down to the Social Security office with me. And when I got there, I had made the appointment, and I gave all these records to the person who was going to interview us. And when he looked at them, and when you came in, he said, "There's no problem at all. This is a very responsible," I think you were 16 then, and he said the check will come in your name. So the next month, the check came in your name, and of course your aunt was a little shocked by that because she couldn't cash it, and you were able to cash it, put some in the bank, because I remember when you graduated you had saved $3,000, and you got your winter boots and your winter coat and all the things that you needed. I was very impressed because not many of my students came with those kinds of problems. That was a little different for me. So that's how we met. And then a little bit later, when you graduated, you went on to Alabama A&M on scholarship, and Gretchen drove you down there. You gathered everything in the house and put it in the car, and you went down. And I used to send you goodie packages, tea, candles, incense, whatever I could find that I thought you would enjoy, and I would send that to you. And that's kept us connected. And when you graduated, I remember I think you went to the University of Davis, and that didn't turn out because they didn't treat you very well there. And somehow, I don't remember the exact timing, but you sent me a love letter on red paper, and you wrote in the letter that you were looking for a mother, and you knew a lot of women, but you met me, and we had known each other, I guess, about 10 years then, and you decided you wanted me to be your mother. So you asked me, could you adopt me and take my name? And I said yes. And so then you proceeded with adopting me as your mom. And I remember telling you that I thought that your mother had picked me out for you ahead of time. She had been working on us to make us meet, and your mother really chose me for you and got us together so that I could be your mom. I decided not to marry and not to have any children. And you know what happened with me and Cliff, that I proposed to him and he said, "I want to be an artist." And I know that he wasn't rejecting me, he was rejecting the institution of marriage. He never married anybody. And then we became friends for 55 years. So a lot of at least 5 or 6 of the paintings that you're going to see in this video are from him. Wow. You know my background. I'll just repeat it because sometimes I know you tell me there's pieces of you forget. My mother and father were both from New Orleans. My mother was from St. John's Parish, and my father was from actually New Orleans proper. And my mother met my father through a man that she was dating. He was drafted, and my father was there, and he said, called my father Buddy. He said, Buddy, look out for my girl while I'm gone. First it was social, and then you start dating, and eventually you both decided you wanted to leave New Orleans. And so my father decided he was going north, and he asked you, that's my mother, did she want to go? And she said yes. So she actually ran away with my father. She told her older sister she was going to Chicago to a Catholic convention of women, and my father sent her money, and she got a ticket to Cleveland, Ohio. They really wanted to go to New York, but he didn't have enough money to go there, so he went as far as the money would take him. Then my mother got pregnant 3 times. The first 2 babies, she had spontaneous abortions, so I am the full-term baby. My mother named me Ponchita because there was a woman who was in Cleveland, and the woman befriended my mother and took care of my mother and showed her how to function in the city, and her name was Ponchita. So my mother decided to name me Ponchita. When they told the relatives in New Orleans what she had named, they said, why did that woman name that child Poinsettia after a Christmas flower? Because I was born in December. They didn't understand what the name was and how it came about. My mother wanted to let them know that she appreciated what she did for her, so she named her only child after her. I started in high school. I was an art major, and when I went to college, I went as an art major, and my family didn't encourage me. They said, what are you going to do with art? Back then, we didn't know any black artists. I probably should have gone to Hampton, where Jacob Lawrence and some of the black artists were, but I didn't know about that. Our life was very insular in a way. My mother was sick, and my father was a street dude. Actually, he's kind of like a lone wolf. And so my mother used to walk me when she was able. She'd walk me to the art museum. I don't know why she picked the art museum, but she did. And I saw all those pictures, and I decided that I wanted to major in art. When I got to high school, I did do that. But my mother said, you have to find some way to take care of yourself. So I started reading some books, and I read a book called Rebel Without a Cause, and I decided I wanted to work with gangs. I went off to college as an art major, and then I transferred to social work because I wanted to work with young people. I've tried twice. I've taken art classes, but I was never able to devote the kind of time I needed to really develop what talent I had. Cliff told me, he said, Ponch, you got talent. You need to go to school. So I was going to go to school if he and I got married, but when he told me he wanted to be an artist, I decided I'm going to go off and just put all of my energy in being a social worker. So I went and I got my master's degree, and I applied for a job in Chicago as a detached street worker. They were working with gangs then, and they wanted someone to work with girl gangs. And I had the nerve and the courage then that I thought I could do that. I could manage myself on the street with girls. And then my mother sent me a letter, and she said, you need to come home when you graduate because your father has cancer and we don't know how long he's going to live. So I aborted that idea and went home and got a part-time job and lived at home. And then finally my mother said she wanted to come back to New Orleans. And I had met Cliff by then, and he said, I asked him, would you take us to New Orleans? And he said yes. So we got a big truck. We put all her furniture on, and we moved her to New Orleans. And it's very interesting. When my mother had to come back because she couldn't live alone anymore and she was going to live in assisted living, Cliff went with me, and we got a truck and put all her stuff, and he brought her to St. Louis. So he has been a very important part of my life. And now I have all of his artwork. And once he got cancer, I would go down in the summer and bring him up here to St. Louis, and he'd stay 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And I arranged for him to sleep in my bedroom, and I put a cot downstairs. And we were truly friends, truly friends. I remember dating somebody named Joseph, and Cliff said he thought I was going to marry Joseph, but Joseph wasn't my choice. And that's to get married, I didn't want to get married. I wanted to marry a person that I loved and that loved me. Marriage by itself did not appeal to me. Marriage only included the person that I would love. So I did marry Joseph, and there was really not anybody special in my life. Cliff was the main man in my life for 55 years, and I would think I was the only woman other than his mother that he had a relationship as long as he had with me. I'd like to point out his artwork. He has the painting over there of the sisters, and I love them, the young women that were out in the West. And then I like his geometric work. I like his white buffalo. And then I like his little girl over here. She has the presence of an adult in her face and in her energy. It sounds like that child is embodied by an old spirit, and I really love her. I would never sell that piece. And then the one at the top is the Black Buffalo Soldiers. They were both, sometimes they were part of Indian removal. And at the same time, they were also soldiers and part of a cavalry. Of course, my favorite piece and your favorite piece is the one that Cliff made of me, a portrait of me, when I was about 35. And he really captured, everybody says, are you mad? Are you angry? No, I'm just present, that's all. And that's what Cliff got. I was present to the situation, and I have that expression on my face many times when I am talking to people. So I love it, and you, of course, you know you will get it. Okay. Now, Pumpkin, I'm going to talk about you. I remember when we decided we wanted to do StoryCorps for NPR, and we did that tape. I have that, and I have shared it with my therapist and a few other people. So I'm going to talk a little bit about you and what you and I have created together. We have created a very powerful alliance, a relationship between a mother and a daughter. And you have taught me that I don't have to birth a child to be a mother. In our community, I remember people have asked me, you don't have any kids? I said, yes, I have one. I have one daughter. And then I tell them about you. Now let me back up a little bit. After you went off to school, you and I continued to write and talk to each other, and when you came into town you saw me, and then I went to your graduation and you introduced me as your mother. That was overwhelming, and nobody had ever done that. Nobody had ever chosen me like that. And the things that I have shared with you are kind of my values, and I'll kind of go over them. I've always told you to be autonomous. You know, what's important is what you think and believe about yourself. And I always encourage you, which you have always done, choose yourself. That's not selfish, that's autonomy. And that's what we're given at birth. The ability to make choices in our life. And you have made some very powerful choices. I know you want to cure cancer because of your aunt and your uncle. And I remember you telling me you were someplace and you thought, if a telescope can pick a penny, can show you a penny thousands of miles away, why can't you cure cancer? And so you use your physics training to do that. And I know that you are one of maybe 5 or 6 black female physicists in the United States that graduated in the last, say, 10 years. So I know that's not common. And I know you were not always treated the way you needed to be treated in school because you were black. And you spent more time in school. If you had been white, if you got it finished in 5 years. Because you were black, it ended up being 7 years. So I know the different trials that you have faced with tests. And I remember you telling me you were calling somebody, and the person must have said to the professor, whoever, "This is a smart young woman." And when you got on the phone, he said, "Oh, you're the smart cookie that I'm talking to." So we know that you are gifted from the ancestors with intelligence, integrity, and a very solid value system that made you decide to do research with a nonprofit organization. Because a lot of people would have chosen investors. And you said, "Ma, I want everybody to have this availability of this technique to kill cancer cells, whether they're on the African continent, North America, South America, and it's not going to cost them any money. You're going to keep it affordable for poor people, because poor people obviously die more from cancer than those that are wealthy, because they have access to the resources." So I know that you're a woman of ethics, you're a woman of compassion, and you're a woman who cares about the African American community. And I know that you know that we both feel that is extremely important in our lives. I have always worked in the African American community, and you have chosen to serve them and do it through your healing power, because you do have healing power. The ancestors have used you as an instrument in our community, and I am sure that you recognize that you have been chosen, or you would not have been given the gifts that you have been given to work in the community. I know also that the PhD was very demanding and very hard. It took a lot of courage to choose that career and to get through the institution that you had to get through to get your PhD. So I think and believe you are a remarkable human being. And as I've always said to you, you were chosen and I was chosen. So our relationship is very special because your mother and the ancestors brought us together. And that kind of loving power that two people share with each other is a sacred, precious gift. And I feel privileged to be your mom.
Not the last name. I know he was a Freddie or Joe. I'm going to look it up.
Yeah,
Listening to your elders thing, it's not very popular because they have the internet and TikTok.
Oh.
That's why this is so powerful for me.
Okay.
You're better than the social media.
Oh. Thank you. I said if I had been in the mosque, I would have given him and say, here's my phone number. Call when you have time. I tell you, I love Malcolm. He was black. You can be black and privileged. Malcolm wasn't.
Right.
And I just love Malcolm. What about the prophets of today, like Angela Davis and Malcolm, that were enlightened, informed spirits that were here on earth? We act like they don't exist.
I gotta wait that long to be enlightened?
No, you don't have to be, but I had to be.
Yes, ma'am.
You can be enlightened whenever you choose to go down an enlightened path. And I hadn't found the enlightened path. Now I have. And so now I am much freer.